why is this graph important? Why was that so important? What can I say? What do you think about that? If you notice, the graph was showing that the nuns, which is the main one that I was focused on, and how the nuns started growing in and around the 2000, early 2000s. And you saw how the Protestants and the Catholics and all the other religions started decreasing after the 2000. But what happened in and around 2000 that could have possibly allowed for the nuns to go from a single digit of around 3 to 6% to go all the way up to 23%, matching that of Catholics today? It's not yet quite there with Protestants, only 10% behind Protestants. What happened? Well, the internet happened. You see, although we had the internet long before in the 80s and even before then, and we had the internet in the 90s, it wasn't until around the 2000s that the internet became more user-friendly, that the internet became something where you could search through it easier, because I don't know if you guys remember AOL and before Yahoo and all of that stuff. I remember those time frames. The search engines weren't as great. But in the 2000s, once we started having Google, because things like Ask Jeeves and Bing and all that didn't work out too well. But once Google really got going and people had more access to archaeological data, had more access to other people who wrote PhD papers and things of that nature, the information that you were able to obtain was vastly different from the 60s and the 50s and the 40s. Now you were able to get information that went against what your pastor had been telling you all your life. Now you can actually study this for yourself. Prior to this time frame, I used to have to go to the library and have to find reference books, or go to the college libraries in Atlanta and find different reference books and be able to read PhD papers. You have to request them from the college or request them from the Library of Congress and things of that nature. So it was arduous work back then. You have to really be into it. But the layperson really didn't have that type of access unless they was really interested in finding this information out for themselves. But once Google really got on its feet, and then in a few more years, we started being able to have social media, where it went from MySpace to Facebook and YouTube, and more information was at your fingertips. They could no longer lie to you. The pastors have to realize that the information that they had been feeding you was incorrect information, that the things that they had learned in seminary that caused at least about 20 to 30% of all seminary students to leave the faith, that information was now available to the average person sitting in the pews. And once the average person sitting in the pews was able to ascertain that same information, their flock started getting smaller. People started waking up to the truth. And I'm gonna add another little nugget in there. There was a movie that came out, and that movie changed the mindset of people because it came right at the very beginning of the digital age, and that was The Matrix. You see, The Matrix made people realize that you had to go down the rabbit hole. Remember in the very beginning of the movie, when Neo, who is an anagram for the One, was told to follow the white rabbit, and when the people came to the door and he gave them their disc that they had been looking for, and the guy said, "You are my personal Jesus Christ, my personal Savior," but then he was told to follow the white rabbit, and the girl had the white rabbit tattooed on her shoulder. That follow the white rabbit was a hint towards Alice in Wonderland, later mentioned when he finally met Morpheus, about going down a rabbit hole, going down there with Alice. And see, when you went down the rabbit hole, it meant that you stepped away from the reality that you had been forced or thought you believed in, or you thought that was real, and showed you a whole different world, a whole new world of information. And the internet became that new world of information. Now when archaeologists find out a dig is going on somewhere and they find something, you have the opportunity to know what it's about. When college professors do lectures on in religious studies, it wasn't that you had to now go to Harvard or Yale to get those lectures. You can go on YouTube and get those lectures from Harvard and Yale religious study professors, and you can get the information that was only known to a few people, and now that information became garden variety. And this is why the nuns have increased so much, because we now are able to get right and correct information. Is not what pastor said no more. And this is why so many people are walking away from these religions, because we're finding out the truth of these religions. And it opened up an opportunity for other people like myself, who has spent 30, 40 years studying this information, to have a platform to be able to talk about this and bring this to you, and for you to be able to use critical thinking to figure it out for yourself. That's why Christians are so desperate. That's why they are so desperate. That's why people, like, not to be too political, the MAGA people want to make everything Christian. They want to take away your ability to be able to research and know these things for yourself. That's why they want to take away TikTok. It's not just for the religious aspects of it. They want to take it away because it provided a community where people have been able to learn different things, realize different things, see different places, learn that the world community is not as separated as they want you to remain. You can't control them as much. So we'll see if TikTok stays around. If not, come on over to my YouTube page, Coach Renz 33, and the lessons will continue there. But the nuns, we're coming, we're growing, we're getting stronger day by day. Got to say that kind of demonic so that the Christians have something to say. But anyway, y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.